Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to see you again on the second workshop from the workshop series, Hyperledger Bevel. Today, we'll talk about Hashicorp Vault for Hyperledger Bevel. The Hyperledger Bevel workshop series is a great opportunity to learn about this exciting new technology. So don't miss out, register to another session to be the final. I will drop a link to the next event in the chat. And please welcome Sownak, who is our speaker, and he's also technical architect at Accenture and technical architect and a maintainer of Hyperledger Bevel. And he will say everything about the Bevel. And please welcome Sownak. Could you please start?
Yeah, hi everyone. Hello. So welcome to the second session of this workshop series. We had the first one last week, and then we have the last one, third and last one, I think in 2 days, where you have the details on the chat. So Bevel workshop series, Hyperledger Bevel is the newest Hyperledger project. So today's session will be about deploying Hashicorp Vault, and the previous session was about deploying the Kubernetes cluster. So just on I don't know if we can raise hands or something here. Like everyone who is here will be working along. Again, this is a hands-on workshop, so you're expected to run the commands as we go along. Everyone who is here as a participant are able to have their own Kubernetes cluster, are able to access their clusters. Just a show of hands, or I don't know if it is possible, or yes in the chat. Okay, so yeah, this is just the antitrust policy notice for the recording and the live session. So yeah, so for those who said no, this is one of the prerequisites for this session. You may watch the recording. It's on YouTube on how do you do the Kubernetes cluster, managed Kubernetes cluster deployment. It should be fairly easy if you're using like a managed cluster. This one is for deploying Vault on that same Kubernetes cluster. So that's the question for everyone's, you can answer on the chat is what is Vault in general? When you hear the term Vault, what do you understand, or in plain and simple English, what is Vault? So guys, you can answer in the chat. Okay, got some good answers. Yes, so in general, I think whoever has given the generic answer, it was Mahesh saying a place to keep things securely. A secret store, Alex saying that. That is correct. In general sense, a vault is where you store things securely, like in your home you have a vault, for example. So when it comes to software, we have a vault which is used for storing secrets and credentials. It is not a credential management thing. I guess many people have said that it is a credential management tool. It is not. It is not managing any credentials. It is just giving a secure way to store and access the credentials, storage and retrieval of credentials or secrets. It can be passwords. It can be generally we use in Bevel to store the public keys and the private keys. Yeah, so yeah, so that's more or less correct, but just to correct everyone, whoever has said it is not a credential management tool. It is a storage and retrieval, and yeah, it gives a lot of different options. For just on brief on the history, why we chose Hashicorp Vault in Hyperledger Bevel is because Hashicorp Vault provides again an abstraction for kind of the similar reasons we chose Kubernetes as an abstraction layer. Hashicorp Vault is providing the abstraction layer on top of the cloud provider, so you are not tied to a single cloud provider, because all cloud providers have their own key management systems or key retrieval storage, but that will mean that you will get tied to a specific cloud provider. If Hashicorp Bevel said, oh, it is only supporting AWS KMS or Azure KD. So that is, to avoid that, we are using Hashicorp Vault. Hashicorp Vault can be deployed similar to Kubernetes. It can be deployed on a laptop, on a desktop, or on even on cloud, even on your very highly secure data centers as well. And then you can have all the other advantages of Vault is that it can connect, use the native cloud provided KMS services to integrate some of the aspects of the Vault. For example, in our case, in AWS, in our dev and test environment, we use the automatic unseal of the keys for using the AWS KMS itself. So all of these can be they can be integrated with Vault to make it much more secure. So and that was the reason for selection of Vault. And so that's more or less here. Any questions till now?
Yeah.
So is there any question? Okay, if not, then yeah. So for today's session, these are the prerequisites. You should have a Kubernetes cluster, and you should, of course, have a laptop or desktop from where you are connecting. Right. So let's start hands-on workshop. You should have your access or Kubernetes cluster up and running. If you have not, you made it sleep like the nodes to 0. Just increase the number of nodes so that you have a cluster working. I will, yeah. So I'll just go back and I'll share the link on the chat. So we are here. Okay, maybe I'll just put it here and I'll run the commands from my should be okay from Zoom point of view, right? So before we start, you can check your Kubernetes config. So mine is here, and then I just ran the same command as kubectl get pods -a to check that I am on the right Kubernetes cluster. So as you can see, it's my Google Kubernetes cluster, which doesn't have anything additional right now. Mostly all the kube system pods that are running for the specific GKE cluster that I have created. Okay. So first, if there are some concepts and all in the deployment guide, we are using basic deployment guide so that you don't get confused with all this, how to do it on Minikube and how using console. We'll use very basic Thanks. Okay, question is, how do we get kubeconfig on laptop, right? So depends on, so I'm showing Kubernetes on GKE, right? So I'm on Google. So you can, how do you get it on laptop is you first export. I mean, by default, it will be in .cube/config, your default kube config. If you want to save it in another place, you can just do this. For example, export the kube config as a variable equals to, say, and give your path where you want to store your kube config. So for me, it is kube. And then I renamed it as this file, bevel-workshop ws.yaml. So that's now set. And then after this is set, you go to your, wherever your cloud, there is an option to, if you open this Kubernetes cluster details, is this connect command. You can copy this and then run it. Run here. And yeah, that's how you get your Kubernetes kube config in your laptop. It will be a little bit different for AWS, for example. If you're unfortunately using Minikube, it should already be set by default at .cube/config. You can check if you have the right kube config by also checking, giving this command kubectl config view. So it shows my details, my kube config details. Okay, hopefully that answered the question. Okay, so there is some on details on vault reference architecture and all that. So we'll skip that for now. You can read that on your own time. And to run this, of course, you will also need Helm. So I already have Helm in my system. If not, you can get Helm by downloading it from the API. So I'll give you the link as well. Download Helm 3, please. It should be the default Helm. I am using 3.6.1. So you can use as well. So this is how to get Helm. Okay, so let's start. So we'll first start by creating a separate namespace for on the Kubernetes by using this command, kubectl create namespace vault. The name of the namespace is vault. Namespace is like a logical separation inside Kubernetes, whereas it's almost similar to domain names, DNS kind of thing. So if you create a namespace for vault and then you create resources in that namespace, that by default everyone has only resources in that namespace will have access. And the advantage also is that you can directly just go and delete a whole namespace. So everything that was inside the namespace gets deleted. We'll do that, and that should create a namespace called Vault. You can check the namespaces by running this command, kubectl get namespaces. So as you see, the by default Kubernetes had these namespaces: default, kube node lease, kube public, and kube system. And I just now created this namespace called Vault. As you see, the age is 10 seconds. Then you can check what objects you have in your namespace. We don't right now have any correct connection objects. Right, the next step is to set up the Helm repo. So let's do that, which is the command. So if you have that error, that means your Kubernetes is not running or your kube config file is wrong. So, and hence I said to check before you start, you should check by running this command kubectl get pods -a. This command. The learn command is here. I'm not sure why you are not able to see the whole thing. And yeah. Okay, so what I did was I added the Helm repo. Now Helm is a package manager similar to NPM, but it is for Kubernetes. So using Helm, you can we call them Helm charts, which you collate everything that is related to a specific release. And then you can store those charts in something called Helm repositories. And then you have a name for that Helm repo, and this command is doing that. You are adding that Helm, the Helm repo to your local Helm repository, basically. So that is what it says. Hashicorp, when I ran this command, Hashicorp has been added to your repositories. Then you are searching for that particular chart in the next command, which is Helm search repo Hashicorp Vault. So it shows here, this is there is the latest one. So the chart version is 0.21, but the app version is 1.10.3. So the other thing, one thing, so here the app version means the Hashicorp Vault version. Hashicorp 1.10.3 is not supported by Bevel. The highest we are supporting right now is 1.7.4. So we'll have to install that version. Okay. So what we'll do, we'll search for the rest of the versions. Helm search repo Hashicorp Vault -- versions. And we'll see. So 1.7.4 is not there. We can use 1.7.3 because it is a bit lower. Everyone, any questions until now? No. Okay. Sue, did you get your Kubernetes config corrected so that you are able to connect to the cluster by now? Okay. Okay. So yeah, I mean, when you attended the the in-person workshop in London, I thought we already have reached this point, but yeah, maybe you have deleted the cluster and recreated it, and hence it needs a new Kubernetes config file. Okay, for the next one, next command, we are now installing the Helm chart. There is in this place there is a kind of common things how you run a Helm command. But in general, you do Helm install, then you give the release name, and then you have the chart name, and then it is namespace is you give the namespace on which this release will be deployed. And then because we have to deploy a specific chart version, we have to give the version. So as you listed here, the version we'll be using is 0.0.13.0 because that's what is deploying. Vault version 1.7.3, which we want. So you copy this and yeah, give the version command. Okay, that's it. I'll paste this command in the chat. Okay, so now it says it has been deployed, and then let's see how it looks. Okay, so if you do kubectl get, I'll go back with all the get all. So we see it has been deployed. We have in kubectl minus namespace vault get all. If we do, we have two pods. Then we have the services, and then we have some deployment and all. So there is one thing wrong here, which is that the service is a cluster IP. So that's a problem because we need this service to be available over the internet, and hence it should be a load balancer. So we'll have to fix that. Okay, we'll see how do we fix that. We'll create a small file called override. It is, I mean, the details are there in this chart, in the value itself, in the guide that we're following itself, but I'll do additional things as well. So let's open an editor. So I'm just writing a file here on a new, I'm using Atom, but you can use your preferred editor. No issue with that. So the only thing that it needs is this part where you're enabling the Vault UI. So this one you can, if you see I'll show you the section here. So I just copied this part from the end of this file because this is a sample override file which you can use to override the values that is by the default values that was set when you ran the Helm install command. So what this is saying is to enable the UI and then use the service type as load balancer and not use a node port. It says null, and then the external port is 8200. If you have, if in some cases you may have, restrictions on those ports, like can't access 820, shouldn't allow and all that. In that case, you can change this port. And if you see the guide here, you can also see that for added security, you can add IP, the source ranges on the load balancer as well, so that only this IP will be able to connect to Vault. But anyway, Vault will have, of course, because it is secure, it will have access control. So you'll not, it is, even if you, and this is, you're doing a test in real life scenarios, of course, Vault will be behind inside a DMZ, behind a DMZ or behind a firewall, or it should not be exposed over the internet. It's just for our, to make it easier, we are using it as such. Okay, so then you save this file as a YAML file. Yeah, so I've saved it as here. Then I'll do is I'll uninstall the existing vault first. Then it's easy. You can also upgrade, but I'll uninstall. So to show you the command as well. So how do you uninstall a Helm is using a simple command Helm uninstall. You give the namespace because this is created in this namespace. And then the name of the release, which is Vaulters. Okay, so that has been uninstalled. Now we'll redo the installation with, yeah, I'll cat, just a second. Yeah, it's that. Okay, so we'll then redo the installation with the -f command, which basically means is providing this file as the override value. So everything else remains same, just do this -f override values.yum. Okay. Now if we see the get all, we'll see that you have Vault UI, which is creating a load balancer. The external IP is still pending, but it will surely come up soon. We'll have to wait for that. Because it's creating a external IP, it takes a little bit of time. Any questions till now? I'll do that again. So yeah, we have the external IP. So now with the external IP, I will go there. And we know the port because we have asked for this port. And that's how you have the Vault UI. Right, James, I didn't get you. Sorry, the reinstall. You mean the uninstall? So I'll give the command for uninstall as well. It should be here. That's the uninstall. And then that's the reinstall with the override parameters file. Okay, so now you are at the Vault UI. I just grabbed the IP address, which is when I do, or I can do also kubectl get services minus namespace vault. So if I do that, I'll see that Vault UI has a service called load balancer, and this is the only service that has an external IP. So when I'll copy the external IP and the port is 8200. If you're not sure, you can also check there. The port is 8200. So if you are using a different port, you grab that port. So I opened it, and by default it will forward to this page. This is only at the start of your vault, because now the vault has been installed first time, so it is going to be it has to be initialized. So if you're doing for the second time, it will be different. So once you are here, so there are two options here. So basically this is how you create the number of unsealed keys. Like a physical vault, every vault needs a key to unseal it, unlock it. So for that you will need an unsealed key. You can generate for, for now we can do 1 and 1. So that means you will only get one key, and you have to provide one key. But in generally in other scenarios, you should have like 5 and 3. So that means you will generate you'll generate 5 keys, but then you will need at least 3 of those 5 keys to unseal. But this is a dev environment, so I'll use 1 and 1 to create the master keys. Should an ingress be used with the deployed load balancer that Bevel deploys? I'm not sure. The question is, we have not used Bevel as of till now. So this is just pure Vault deployment. Bevel has not been used till now. So if the question is about Bevel, which we'll be doing in 2 days time, Bevel deploys a load balancer for which is Ambassador or in HA proxy. HA proxy is only used for Fabric. So that's where Bevel deploys. Should Vault be deployed on the same cluster that Bevel? No, that is not necessary. You can deploy Vault on a different cluster as well. Yeah. So I'm showing it the deployment of Vault on the cluster, because that's right now the easiest thing to do. Because if you deploy it on a separate cluster, you have to ensure that there is in the cluster, the Bevel cluster and the Vault cluster should also be able to talk to each other on that port. If you, I don't know if you follow our Discord channel, there were some questions regarding that, because I guess someone deployed Vault on their own machine, but they deployed the cluster on GKE on cloud, and then the cloud Kubernetes was not able to reach the Vault on the machine, because that's not how it works. Yeah, but it is possible. It is not that the Vault should be, I mean, in essence, when we deploy Vault, we deploy this thing for clients, we create Vault on a separate VM instead of on the Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so this will generate keys, which I'll hide from the recording. So just click on initialize. If you get an SSL error, you are trying to give to HTTPS, but it is not HTTPS, maybe, James? Okay, it is not showing, so I'm safe. So yeah, if I click that, you will have this initial root token and the key. I have downloaded the keys, and then I will just go continue to unseal. Now, again, as I said, for unsealing, you will need to open, provide one of the keys. So let's do that. And yeah, so now the vault is unsealed, as you see with the green thing here. And then you just now have to provide the token, which is the root token for initial login. And yeah, so both the unsealed keys and the root token, you should be safeguarding it. uh, and save it somewhere safe. Is same as a key to your vault in your house. The only advantage when you deploying it on using a VM, or even on especially using a VM, you can do the unseal key management via the cloud KMS, for example, AWS KMS or Google keys. You can do that. So it will always, whenever you restart Vault, it will automatically unseal. But in other cases, if you're not doing that, then if you restart Vault, you have to unseal the Vault again. Because what Vault thinks is, if you're restarting the machine, Vault kind of identifies it as an attack, and you have to give the keys again. I mean, similar to when you restart your phone, it asks for your password. Right. So this is how the Vault front end looks like. You have, the secrets here. I'll do one small thing before we progress, but that's more or less what we are done. We'll have the accesses here and in the policies. So when we do the deployment, we using Bevel, then we'll come and see how these entries in these things are changing. Okay, so any questions still for now? Otherwise, I'll just show a little to enable a new engine. So because I think by default, we're using secrets v2 in some of the things. So okay, I'll do it again. So you have to enable a new engine for v2 version and give it a different name. And this name will be used in Bevel configuration file. So we give the name as secrets v2. And just to ensure that the version is v2, in this you can choose one, but right now the current project doesn't support version 1, so don't do that. So choose version v2 and give a name called secrets v2. You can give it any other name as well, as long as you remember it, because we'll need it when you do the configuration for the network YAML. Yeah, and then you click on enable engine, and that's all. So you will see a new engine called secrets v2, and it says it's a v2 engine, but it is type key kv or key value that has been enabled on Vault, though it doesn't have anything inside it right now. Okay, and yeah, that's pretty much for this session. If there are any questions, did you get? So what is the recommended approach to store secrets for Bevel in production? For backend or engine recommended? So to store secrets, the recommended approach, as I said, just a minute. The recommended approach, as I said, was to do set up Vault on a separate VM. It should be in the same VPC as your Kubernetes cluster, but it should be on a different VM, and it should be internal IP, so that it is not accessible via from external, and it should only be accessible from a VPC from a pod or a machine which is inside the same VPC. And of course, you need access to the from your Ansible controller, from where you will run the Bevel commands, as well as from the Kubernetes cluster. And for the engine wise, there is no secret. We use KV, so there is no recommendation. That is the only approach you can do, is use KV, which I just created, a Vault v2 version of a KV. Okay. Okay, so the other question from James was, can you type the key to unseal? Not sure what you mean. If you mean you can run the commands from here as well or not, then yes, I'll just check if I have Vault. Yes, I do have Vault. So for that, you will need Vault. Again, similar to Helm, you will need the Vault client. So, and then you export the Vault address, which is same as this one, not without the UI and all that. Okay, then if you do Vault status, it will show, for me it is showing that it is initialized as true and it is sealed as false. So that means it is unsealed and it is initialized, so we can access that. You mean via the UI? No, I can't show it via the UI because that's only one time. I mean, if you reach the one UI, you should have the concept of giving the number of key shares and all that, and I used 1 and 1. Yeah, it wants a hex key. It's not a 6-digit key. With the key that you downloaded, the JSON file that you downloaded, the base 64 one is the one that you should pass. So there are if you have one and if you had one key share and one 1 and 1 in there, you should have only one key. And what it is asking for is you should pass the values called for keys base 64, and then it will unseal, and then you will pass the root token to enter. Yeah, I mean, you should have downloaded the keys when they were generated. I mean, if you have misplaced it, there is no harm done. One you can do is you can uninstall everything, not everything, uninstall Vault and reinstall. So you will it will add for the. It is not asking for keys for GCP. It is asking for the key that was generated when you pressed enter. Yeah. So you should be able to see in the video again if you're stuck here on how to get there. You have Vault installed on Cube, but when you enter, yeah, you have to download the keys after you initialize, right? Yeah. Have you initialized the Vault? Yeah, and is the UI showing this, James, or is it showing something else? Yeah, so if it is in the unsealed page, you should have one. You should have put 1 and 1 in those two boxes for the key shares, and then pressed enter, or I forgot the key, the exact name. Then it would have generated a token and a unsealed key, and there was an option to download those keys, or at least you can copy the keys. If you have not done that, it's fine. You can just uninstall with the uninstall commands I have given and reinstall. Then you can do that. Yeah, most likely you have not downloaded the keys. You cannot go back. You can uninstall and reinstall to download that, because then it will generate a new set of keys. Yes. Yeah. With Helm uninstall the commands that I gave a few minutes ago with uninstall and install again. Okay. So again, super important things are, of course, for the next class, next workshop, your address, the IP address, or the Vault address. should be accessible from your computer, which I guess you will be using for as the Ansible controller. If you are going to use WSL or anything else, any other machine, make sure that you can access this Vault IP with this address, exact same address, from that machine as well, or the WSL or the Docker container, whatever you're using. And you will need the root token for the next session, because that's what you pass, and you will need the name of this KV that you created. If you are using secrets v2, it's fine, but if you're given a different name, you will need that name. And then of course you will need the Kubernetes config file, the kubeconfig file, which by now you already have, because you're connecting to Kubernetes kubectl, using kubectl from your machine right now. Again, just ensure that the kubectl commands work from your Ansible controller, which can be your WSL machine or a different Ubuntu machine and all that. So yeah. So install Vault, Helm, though they get installed by the Ansible command as well, but just make sure you have kubectl, Vault, and Helm 3, basically Helm in your in the path there. I am not sure what are the significant differences for Vault Enterprise. Most likely it is licensed and you will have support from Hashicorp for that. But we have not used any additional features from the Vault Enterprise, because we have kept everything open source. In a production environment, most likely you will use Vault Enterprise, because if you don't want to, if there is any problem in the Vault itself, you don't want to debug or something. We have deployed Vault for using console as the backend as well for some of the clients, but I have not used any Vault Enterprise for anyone. Yeah, so I think that's exactly what Michael has said. You'll have the HA and all that is features of enterprise as well. You can do the high availability with hi Michael. So you can do the high availability with other kind of storages as well, but I think on Kubernetes it default uses the file storage. So the next meeting details have been shared multiple times on this chat. I think I'll share again. No, I didn't copy. Yeah, for some reason I'm not able to copy, but it is. Oh, yeah, I can. So it's the next on Thursday, basically in 2 days time, and it's a longer workshop, but expected we'll be working using Bevel commands. I mean, that's when we'll start using Bevel. Mainly, these were just a prelude 2 sessions. So as I said, ensure that your Kubernetes cluster is up and running and Vault is accessible for the next session. Which blockchain will be deployed, that will depend on which people are comfortable with. We have seen we can do Fabric as well, because yeah, Fabric is all right. I think we will be doing Fabric. Besides 2 sessions, any other prerequisites for Thursday? Yeah, so I think there were, let me see my slide deck. So yeah, the main prerequisites for Thursday is your Kubernetes cluster, your Hashicorp Vault. You don't have to attend the sessions, but you can see the recordings. You need the Kubernetes cluster, you need Hashicorp Vault deployed, accessible from the Kubernetes cluster. And you will need a machine where you can run Docker. So you should be able to run Docker commands. If it is WSL, it's all fine. You have to figure out the networking yourself, but you will need a machine where you can run Docker commands. Okay. Well, no, there is no version requirement for Docker. Fabric version, we will be deploying 2.2.2 because that's what is supported. Recordings will be available on YouTube Hyperledger channel, so you should be able to see that. No, we are not going to deploy the supply chain application because I know many people are using very small Kubernetes cluster and the whole supply chain application will not be able to run on it. And most people will not be using a DNS names to access the front end and the APIs. So we'll be only deploying Fabric we'll see if the chain code gets deployed or not, but we'll deploy the Fabric peers with the the peer CLI so that you can access the peers and deploy the chain codes manually as well if you need. No, a domain name is not required for the next session because we'll be doing the internal Kubernetes one, and that's why we are not going to deploy the supply chain application. Okay, so that's all from my side. And yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you on Thursday, 4 p.m.